Hello, Katinka. How are you? Good. Masha, welcome. Rachel, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So I've started the recording and we're live on Facebook.
Oh, nice.
All right. And it's 6 p.m. Zimbabwe time, and wherever else you are, it's whatever time it is in that part of the world. Hi, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the TUDiki shower. Yesterday, we had so much fun with the mothers sharing. A lot was talked about, and a lot of questions yet still to be answered for the rest of this week. So we're very, very excited for everyone who's joined, everyone who cannot join but will watch the videos later. We're live streaming on Facebook. If you're able to join us via Zoom, you can find the information on our website, www.thetudikishower.com. And we will be posting this on our Instagram channel, and we're also live streaming on Wanangum Tanani Facebook live page and also on the YouTube channel. So we're very, very excited, and I see more people are joining. How's everyone doing? And you can unmute just so we can say hello to each other.
Hi, Shingi.
Hi. Hi, Molly.
Hi.
I see Bless. I don't know why Bless more
Hi.
off her video. We wanted to see the baby. She came in with the baby. We want to see the baby. It's a baby shower. Oh, hi. Welcome to the baby shower. How are you? What's her name?
Venus Nyasha.
What's the first name?
Oh, look at
Venus.
that.
Venus.
Oh, Venus Nyasha. Okay, I could only hear the Nyasha part. Hey.
It's Nyasha.
Nyasha. Hi.
Hi.
You're on
getting
TV.
broody.
Yeah.
Shingi. Maybe it's time for the baby number 2.
Oh my goodness. See that's what we talked about with the mothers. Everyone wants people. What if she wants to have one? So those were some of the things the moms were
For
complaining
me.
about. Everyone's
For
like
me.
baby number 2.
No, I'm saying for me because she's so cute.
Oh, for you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get started. So like I said, today is day 2 of our TUDiki shower event, and I'm going to introduce you to our panelists for today. Let me just share my screen so I can introduce them. Most of them are familiar. They've been with the TUDiki shower, which I'm very, very grateful for. Kantinkam Sawaya and Molifia Manyasha have been with us since we started, and due to COVID, unfortunately, we cannot. We're not able to do it in person. I hope you can all see my screen. Just say yes, because I'm just sharing my screen so you can all see our speakers. So we have Kantinkam Savaya. She's a lactation consultant, and she works with nursing mothers. Her website is kantinkabreastfeeding.com. I hope I got it right, but I'll share her pages with you in a moment. We have Molifia Manyasha. She's a registered dietitian. We have Rachel Mandigora. She's a new mom. She has a 14-month-old, and she has some information to share with you on her breastfeeding and feeding journey. And we have Rosie Omasha Chirisa. She is a meal planning consultant. So she'll be sharing a lot on meal planning and how to make the best use of your time and make sure you're feeding your family healthy meals without feeling stressed out and feeling that burnout that a lot of you mothers were talking about yesterday. So without further ado, I am going to ask Molifia to get us started.
Okay. Hi, Shingi. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be part of the TUDiki shower again. I really look forward to October because now that's the TUDiki shower month, hey?
Yes.
So yeah, so I think we can start to talk about nutrition and why it's very important. I think um, in this, let's start to talk about the importance of preparing our bodies for pregnancy. I know in the African culture, a lot of women don't think about that. It seems to be a more Western thing to do, but we're really encouraging mothers to plan their pregnancies, to be nutritionally fit before they fall pregnant, just so that we avoid complications. So here we're talking about eating healthy, your 5 a day. We're talking about you eating your 5 portions of fruits and vegetables. We're talking about you exercising. We're talking about you just being the best you at that time before you actually conceive. All right. So we're also talking about you going to visit the doctor to prepare yourself to say, Doc, I want to fall pregnant. I want to conceive. And the doctor can start to give you multivitamins for that conception so you can be well to carry the baby through the pregnancy. Okay.
All right. And Katinka, you can also just introduce yourself and just briefly tell us more of what you'll be talking about before we go into your presentation. Oh, you're on mute. Oh, we cannot hear you. No. Yeah, you're unmuted, but we cannot hear you.
Let me change the microphone I'm using. Can you hear me now?
Yes, there we go.
Aha, there we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Shingi, for inviting me back for this lovely baby shower that I attend every year together with Molifia. So it's really nice to be back and to chat a little bit more about breastfeeding. I go by Katinka Breastfeeding because nobody can remember my surname. And I am a lactation consultant. And a lactation consultant accompanies families through their breastfeeding journey, from preparing to breastfeed during their pregnancy to the early days and the troubles that they might have, all the way up to weaning. So I will be talking a little bit more about what I do, how to get breastfeeding off to a good start, and some of the problems that you might encounter along the way.
All right, next we'll move on to Marcia. You can share with us a bit of what you do and just your journey and how you got started doing this.
So I am Marcia Teresa. Some know me as Rosie. I'm a mother of 4 beautiful children, and cooking is a passion. Feeding my family wholesome, nutritious meals is a priority for me and my mission as a mom. So what I do is I will be sharing today on some of the tips that you can use to make sure that no matter how busy you get, no matter what your budget is, you can be able to feed your family and yourself, your babies, or during pregnancy, or the big kids without breaking the bank.
And that's really important, especially in these difficult times. And I know, Melissa, you talked about your 5 a day. So we also want to, just talk about that and see if what people can afford, and just so you can still have a healthy baby and not feel like you cannot afford to. Next, we'll go on to Rachel. She's a new mom. So Rachel, can you just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you'll be talking to us about today?
Sure. Thank you, Shingi. Like you said, my name is Rachel Mandigora. I'm a new mom. I'm not a feeding or nursing specialist, but I'm just here to talk about some of the challenges that I faced, especially in the early days around breastfeeding. And then now that I'm getting ready to wean, I would really love to hear from you, Katinka, on that. And Olivia brought up a very good point about pregnancy and being healthy. I never really planned my nutrition during pregnant or before pregnancy. I only started to think about it when I was pregnant. So I'm also here to talk a little bit about that if you need me to as well, and some of the struggles I faced.
Thank you. So, and I also invite the audience, whether you're on Facebook or you're here on the Zoom, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in on the comment section. And we also have lots of giveaways. We have some very generous partners and sponsors who've given us exciting prizes. So let's keep the conversation very interactive, and you can only win if you say something. You know, you have to say something so we we can give you a prize. All right, I'll go back to you, Malifia. Can you just tell us more about, you know, you talked about getting your body ready for pregnancy, and that's something a lot of people don't think about. If you're lucky, you can just get pregnant just like that without having to prepare yourself for pregnancy. What are some of the things that you can share with our viewers on getting ready for that pregnancy journey?
Right, Shingi, like I mentioned, it seems to be a more of a westernized thing, but we are really encouraging women who want to get pregnant to actually, we're just encouraging people to be healthy. So we really want, especially women of childbearing age. It's been found in Zimbabwe. I'm going to give statistics for Zimbabwe because that's where I am. That we tend to be iron deficient. We tend to be anemic, and so we want to make sure that we're encouraging mothers that please visit your doctor, discuss that you want to fall pregnant, get those tests done to see what is happening inside your body. If you're anemic, so the doctor can be able to give you supplements when necessary, or to refer you to a dietitian, to refer you to me, so that we can discuss nutrition, those things that you need to equip your body for to carry a pregnancy. I mean, in the African culture, people maybe sometimes take for granted the whole makorokoto thing, but you actually find that nutrition, makorokoto when you actually have the baby, but that whole journey is very much dependent on a lot of things, and nutrition is a big part of it. So you want to prepare yourself, you want to be in the best health, you want to be the best weight, so that you're able to actually fall pregnant, because weight does have an effect on your chances of falling pregnant. Being overweight or being heavier can impact your chances of falling pregnant. Being underweight can impact your chances of falling pregnant. So all of those things are very, very important. Exercising, very important to be able to carry that pregnancy through. Very important, because then you find other mothers then tend to then get diseases of lifestyle, a diagnosis of a disease of lifestyle when they fall pregnant. Some mothers get to be told that you're diabetic, or they've got high blood pressure, or there's so many things that come as a result of not having prepared very well before pregnancy. So we want to encourage women of childbearing age that if you want to fall pregnant, make sure that you are healthy, you're eating healthy, you're exercising, you're doing the best that you can, so that you're able to carry that pregnancy through, so that you don't suffer through micronutrient deficiencies. Because once you do fall pregnant, what the baby just does, it just takes the nutrients from you to make sure that it is getting what it needs, and then it will leave you deficient. So we want to make sure that you are well nourished, so that your baby is also well nourished as well.
And while we're talking about those deficiencies, I'm, you know, anemic. I've always been, I guess, because of my African descent. What are some of the foods maybe that you can recommend? Because not everyone may be able to afford supplements or going to the doctor. What are some of the natural, like, things that one can do to increase those micronutrients without necessarily having to go to a doctor?
All right, great. So if you are deficient in iron, for example, like you're saying that you're anemic, if you've got iron deficiency anemia, we're talking about you eating animal products. We're talking about you eating your bright orange pumpkins. We're talking about you eating meat products. I'm talking about your meat, your fish. We're talking about your chicken. We're talking about your milk, your cheese. Those are very rich in iron. And we want you to be taking them with something that is rich in vitamin C to increase absorption. So we're talking about vitamin C things that are rich in vitamin C are your oranges, your some of the fruit juices that are out there, things that are rich in vitamin C that you can take together with your animal products. And also they're plant-based iron-rich foods. We're talking about your beans, your legumes. We're talking about your mobora, your pumpkin leaves, your spinach, very nutritious, your blackjack, very high in iron. So those are the things that if you are able to get, if you can be able to eat them, they would definitely boost your iron intake. But also, like I said, to enrich it by taking with something that is very high in vitamin C to increase absorption.
All right, that's great information. So that's more information on the pre-pregnant. How about when you're pregnant? A lot of mothers tend to pack on a lot of weight because they say, I'm eating for two. Can you just elaborate on that? Are you really eating for two, or you need to eat your normal regular diet?
And you see, Shingi, thank you for bringing that up. That is a very big misconception that people say, oh, I'm eating for two, so I need to eat. That then brings on a lot of problems. It brings on a lot of problems later on after you give birth and you just can't shed the weight. And even during the pregnancy, you actually find that women who then tend to gain a lot of weight, they're really predisposing themselves to things, like I said, hypertension, diabetes. So we're not eating for two, we're just eating to stay healthy, to support the pregnancy. So what we then say is, when you're pregnant, before you are pregnant, you're eating your 3 meals a day and your 2 snacks. So you're eating your breakfast, your lunch, and your supper. And you're going to have your 2 snacks. Your 2 snacks there, we're really encouraging more of your fruit and your vegetables there, your nuts and things like that. So when you're pregnant, we really encourage that you are just eating an extra meal or an extra snack, which is then breakfast, a snack, lunch, a snack, supper, and then a snack. So maybe you're just eating an extra fruit, or you're eating an extra 2 slices of bread at night with a cup of tea. We want you to try and avoid things like caffeine. We want you to try and avoid things like sushi. I know a lot of women, yesterday I was listening and there was a lady who was talking about, oh, I was craving sushi and things like that. You want to avoid those things that might possibly then cause problems for the baby. Okay, so you're just eating an extra meal. Not necessarily eating for two, because then if you start eating for two, you will pack on the kilos. And then that will become a problem for you later on, wanting to lose the weight, or it might present problems within the pregnancy or during the pregnancy. That's what it is.
So you mentioned, just one last question before we move on to when baby comes, and I'll let Katinka start on that, on the breastfeeding journey. You mentioned that there are certain foods that pregnant women should not eat. I don't know if you can think of them off the top of your head as a registered dietitian. So Malifia is really very knowledgeable. She's a registered dietitian with the Ministry of Child Welfare. So she gets to see a lot in the type of work that she does. What are some of the foods that are considered no-nos when you're pregnant?
Okay.
Planning to.
Well, okay, planning to get pregnant. There's not so much an issue of you saying there's big no-nos. We just really want you to eat healthy. But like I mentioned, the sushi, the raw fish, we really want to discourage you from eating that, because it tends to be very high in mercury, and mercury can become very dangerous for the baby. Okay, very early on in pregnancy. So we want you to try and avoid eating things like raw fish. I know also we want you to try eating things. Pregnant women, when they do get pregnant, they tend to have things like pica, or craving ivu in the African culture, or So we're actually trying to say to you, please, can you avoid taking those, because with that you're also eating things that are not very healthy when you eat that soil. That actually should indicate that there is a deficiency. If you find yourself wanting to eat that soil or ivu in Shona, there's an iron deficiency that is happening to you. So you need to go and get investigated for that. So it's things like that that we're saying, if you, or we really want to discourage you from eating ice, things like that, you know. It's not, that usually shows a symptom of deficiency in your body when you're pregnant. So if you find yourself craving for such things, then maybe go and get investigated. But other than that, as pregnant women, as a pregnant woman, you're going to want certain things. It's normal. But we're saying try your best not to then eat for two, so that you don't later on have issues.
Okay. And one last question for you. You talked about weight gain. I don't want to put numbers because, you know, a lot of us are sensitive about our weight, but what's a normal weight gain? And how much you lose or after you've...
All right. Well, if you go to, off the top of my head, maybe I could just look at it while you're talking to Katinka, and then I'll give you the correct information. But for people who are a certain BMI, we look forward to you gaining a certain weight. Okay, so obviously if you're underweight, we're going to look forward to you gaining a bit more compared to someone who's overweight. So there are actually parameters that we're looking at to say, okay, fine, if you're overweight, we're going to want you to gain so many kgs. You can't go beyond that. And if you're overweight, you're going to need you to gain so many kgs. You can't go beyond that, just to support the pregnancy, because the pregnancy, you need to gain weight to support the pregnancy so that your baby doesn't have intrauterine growth retardation when they're inside you. Okay, so if you just allow me, I'll just look at the figures, specific figures, if you need me to do that, then I can provide them for you.
So I'll come back to you so you can give us like those parameters of what's a good, what's a healthy amount of weight that one can gain during pregnancy. And all right, so I'm going to move on to Katinka. So we've talked about preparing your body to get pregnant, what to eat and how to keep your body nourished during pregnancy. You don't have to eat for two, but you have to make sure that you're getting all your nutrients. Katinka is a lactation consultant. So baby has come. Can we were going to move on to your discussion on breastfeeding and everything else that comes along with breastfeeding. And if you have your presentation, we can share that. I can allow you to share.
Okay. Yeah, I've prepared a few slides, just 3 slides to share with you guys while I speak.
Shingi, whilst Katinka is pulling that out, I just wanted to add to what Malika said. So I actually lost weight net throughout my pregnancy because I was on the higher BMI side, and I was on an almost strict diet from my doctor. So he wasn't concerned that I lost weight during the pregnancy. So that could also happen to women who are overweight.
Okay, that's interesting. So we'll talk more about that.
Right, I think I've shared the screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Super. So I want to talk briefly about breastfeeding today. And for those that are here in the meeting, has any one of you breastfed before or is currently breastfeeding? You can just unmute yourself and quickly let us know.
Yes, Katinka. My daughter is 1 year, 4 months. She's the one who's doing the acrobatics while on the breast.
Yes. And Rachel, I think, yes.
I've breastfed 3 children.
Good. Yeah. Melody. Marcia, I think you as well.
I breastfed all my 4 children.
Fantastic. Great. So for those who have got the experience, what did you wish you knew about breastfeeding before the baby came? What comes to mind? What do you think of when you're saying, I wish I had known what I know now before my baby came?
For me, I preach about breastfeeding all the time, but I actually didn't know how difficult it would be to be consistent with breastfeeding. It just needs a whole lot of support. You absolutely need support no matter what.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
So you would have wished to have known that it can be hard in the beginning and that you need a little bit of support and a lot of
Yes.
perseverance to get it going. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Anyone else?
For me, it was the cracked nipples.
Mm-hmm.
I wish somebody had told me that your nipples can and will crack and it hurts and you still have to continue breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The cracked nipples are a very common story, but I'm going to tell you that they should not crack. So it is not normal for your nipples to crack. But I hear that very, very often, and it can be very painful. And I know it happened to me with my first child, and it's not a nice thing to have. Thanks for that, Marcia. Anyone else? Melody?
I didn't know that you needed to eat, to actually produce a lot of milk. I never produced a lot of milk, so I always found it frustrating. The baby would suckle a little bit and then start crying, and I'd be wondering what it was. And then somebody says, try squeezing and see if there's something coming out from there. And it always seemed like a little bit of milk, like it frustrated the baby. And so I didn't know that you actually have to work on that, on producing milk.
Yeah. Very good point, Melody. The worry, is my baby getting enough milk? What does that mean if it cries? What does it mean if I squeeze my breast and there's nothing there? How much or how little can I eat? What do I need to eat during my breastfeeding journey? Great, we'll talk about that a little bit. Anyone else who would like to say something?
I think for me, I thought that the milk would automatically come out like when the baby comes on the very first day. I didn't realize that it could take a while for the milk to come. And like to everyone's points, you need to persevere. It's painful and all of that stuff. I hadn't prepared myself mentally for it.
Yes, very good point, Rachel. In the beginning, on that first day, on that second day, you're wondering where all those rivers of milk are, and you start getting quite worried. Is my baby even getting enough milk in those early hours and those early days? Very good. Great, thank you for sharing with me. What was the hardest challenge about starting to breastfeed? And I just want to kind of like shout out keywords. What was the hardest challenge of all of these?
Yes.
Yep.
That would have been to actually position yourself to have the baby actually start suckling. Like the nipple always seemed to, I don't know, slip out or some weird thing like that.
Very
So
good.
latching.
Positioning.
I think for me it was, I don't know, more of my babies didn't seem to be interested the first 3 days in suckling. So it frustrated me a lot because I thought it was going to be I thought I was going to get all these wonderful emotions and it was going to happen automatically, but she just wasn't interested. So I found myself having to express milk and feed with the cup the first week until she got it in her brain that she was ready.
Sleepiness can be a big issue in the first days when testing. Sore nipples, I've heard.
Contractions on the first day, I was still getting contractions, and then trying to nurse also getting contractions, like really jolting to your body.
Yeah, and they can be quite painful, those contractions. Great, thanks so much for sharing. So this is not a benefits talk, but I do need to speak a little bit about the risks of not breastfeeding. We are changing our language very slowly. We are no longer speaking about the advantages of breastfeeding. We are talking about risks of not breastfeeding because we can say that breast milk is the normal food. It doesn't give us any added advantages. It just sets us up for a healthy life. So what do we risk if we do not breastfeed? We also risk some things in the mom. So we've spoken about getting rid of those extra kilos. So there will be less weight loss after the birth if we do not breastfeed. We will have a higher risk of cancer and diabetes and osteoporosis later on in our life. We will have more stress and anxiety if we are dependent on bottles. For the baby has a higher risk of getting sick, a higher risk of getting poor grades because that rapid growing brain was not properly nourished with breast milk. The baby might get more health problems even later on in life, like high blood pressure or autoimmune diseases. And much more allergies are prevalent when babies are not breastfed. And also the family and the society, and this is very current in Zimbabwe. I've written here it is expensive to buy formula, but for Zimbabwe we can even say you might not find baby formula at the times that you need it. You might have to have more costs for doctor's visits because your baby is sick more, and you are more tired and you are more stressed, and that puts a strain on the family as well. So in this slide, I have brought out 4 points of normal baby behavior. And why are we talking about behavior when we are speaking about breastfeeding? Because behavior has got clues about how our baby is feeding and how our baby is getting milk. Because we cannot see the amount of milk that is going in the baby's tummy, but we get clues on normal behavior. So the first thing that we know is our baby wants to eat very early. In the first hour after birth, we need to start our breastfeeding journey. And if you've had a normal birth and your baby is healthy, that is very easy. But if there's anything wrong, if you have a seizure or some kind of an emergency, your baby is being born early and is whisked away, we need to express early within that first hour after birth. And I've got a lovely website that I've put on the slide called firstdroplets.com that has got a lot of video material on that first hour after birth. Often, it is mind-boggling how often these little people would like to breastfeed. We need to feed on demand. We do have cases like Molifia said, where in the first days our babies can be a little bit sleepy. Then we have to wake them in the first 3 or 4 days. A normal baby that has got nothing wrong is going to want to eat 8 to 12 times day and night. That's every 2 to 3 hours, sometimes even hourly if they've had a longer nap. So they want to feed very often. Milk supply. Our colostrum, that's the first milk. That's the milk that your breasts are making when your baby is born. It comes in very small quantities. In the first 24 hours, your baby needs 5 milliliters to fill the tummy to the brim. And those who know cooking and baking, 5 mils is 1 teaspoon. And so you can appreciate that it gets digested quite quickly and the baby wants a little more. And most mums have got that milk. Those few drops of milk are there. And that volume starts to increase around day 3. That's a long time. Only around day 3 are you getting an increase. And what are the signs that your baby is getting enough? You need to hear that swallowing. If your baby doesn't audibly swallow, they might not be eating very well. You should have no nipple pain. Nipple pain is a sign that the baby is not getting enough milk. So it's a lose-lose situation. You are cringing because you're in pain. The baby is feeding extra long because it's taking time for the baby to fill the tummy. The breasts will get softer with time. So after about 3-4 weeks, your breasts will be soft, but continue to make milk. Your baby should come off by themselves pull off the breast and say, I'm full, thank you, mommy. If that never happens, there could be a little problem. You need to count the diapers. Good wees and good poos are a really good sign that a lot is coming in. I've never seen a starving, dehydrated baby that has had good pooey diapers. In the first 4 weeks, we need at least 3 diapers a day. And then with time, you can be sure they're getting enough if they're gaining weight. So what are the 4 most important challenges? And I think we've heard almost all of the challenges here today. The first important challenge is your baby is there, you know what to do, but the baby is simply not latching onto the breast. That can throw off mothers completely. It's a big, big, big crisis if you have done everything that everybody is telling you and the baby is not latching. So if that happens, there are 3 keeps. You need to keep the milk flowing by expressing, and Molifia did that in the beginning. You need to keep the baby fed by using a little cup or a little spoon. In the picture here, you can see a little spoon to keep the baby fed. And you need to keep that baby close. By getting into skin to skin, you create that oxytocin environment, that environment of love and warmth that helps our babies latch, sometimes even a few days after the birth. Nipple pain. Nipple pain is a very common challenge, but we were not made to have wounds like you can see on the picture here. It is not normal. And pain should be guiding us to position our babies differently until you find a position that is not painful. And it's all to do with the depth of the latch. So latch deeply, get the baby to take more of that breast into the mouth. And if your pain is there, you need to get help with the latching. And I'll invite you all to feel the roof of your mouth with your tongue. Can you feel how rough that is? Now imagine your nipple rubbing against that in your baby's mouth. Then a wound will appear. Now go all the way to the back of your mouth. Feel all the way to the back. Can you feel how nice and soft it is? That's where we want our baby's nipple to go. And then nipple pain is not an issue anymore. At least not tears flowing down your face. That's not normal. Engorgement can be a challenge. So we have hoped and prayed for that milk to come in. And then we wake up on day 3 and now suddenly our breast is full and hot. We're feeling feverish. We're feeling engorged. The baby is now crying because they cannot latch on that full breast. And the answer to that is to feed very, very often. Use some cabbage leaves to put a cold compress. Maybe hand express a little bit out of the breast to soften it slightly, and then let the baby do its job and get that breast soft again. If your engorgement takes longer than a couple of days, then maybe something is not right with the baby's strength in feeding. And the last one we also heard, that worry that I do not have enough milk. And very often it is only a worry. Sometimes it is real. So you need to know the normal newborn behavior. If your baby is coming again for a feed and you're thinking it might be that I don't have enough milk, it's likely not to be a problem. When your breasts get softer, even those soft breasts make enough milk. Beware of times with growth spurts. There are times when babies want to come to the breast by far more often than other days. That is normal and it stimulates your milk supply. And maybe I can add here, you can see in the picture, the lady is hand expressing. And very often we are not taught how to hand express correctly. And then you are trying, like Melody explained, you're trying to squeeze to see and nothing happens. Whereas if you place your hands correctly, you might get a little spray. I have that very often. Mums are in tears, there is no milk. We help to position the hands in the proper position, and suddenly I am completely sprayed in breast milk in the face, and the mother gives a little squeak. What was that? So also, don't despair if you've tried. Go and watch a video, ask somebody who knows hand expression, and be taught where to position your fingers to see where to get the most milk. So that's just a little talk. If you are struggling a lot with your breastfeeding, give me a shout. For consults, I have some Well Baby packages. I always feel like breastfeeding also needs a checkup for everybody. So you've got Well Baby packages that you can book when you're still pregnant. Just like you're taking your baby to the pediatrician to check, have a breastfeeding checkup, get a lot of problems out of the way before they become a concern. And for those sore nipples, I have a healing laser that I can bring that helps with the pain and that helps to heal the nipples very quickly as we have adjusted our latch. And I am really here to support you, to support your baby. Thanks so much, and I'm very open to answer all your questions.
Thank you, Katinka. I'm going to ask a few questions from Facebook.
Yes.
The first question from Chiedza, she's asking, what causes the cracking and how do you prevent it?
Mm-hmm. So most of the time, cracked nipples come from a shallow latch. And that is when your baby is only getting the tip of the nipple into the mouth. I've got my nice pink breast right here. So if the baby is not opening very wide and is just pinching the tip of the nipple like this, then baby is suckling very, very hard because there's very little milk in the nipple. If anybody has breastfed before, there's really no milk in the nipple. And the baby is latching very hard, sucking very hard, and that nipple is rubbing on that hard part of the palate. Now we want the baby to open wide and to latch from here to here so that it lands where the nipple is, where the mouth is very soft. And baby is going to still and eat quite nicely because now the milk is flowing. And this is the position where we use hand expression as well. And that is where the jaws and the tongue can now get the milk out properly. So if you're feeling any sort of pain, try and adjust your baby. Make the baby open wide before you bring the baby in close. When the mouth is full, the pain disappears.
Okay. And on question number 2 from Facebook, from Mama Kiri Gumunyu Manatsa, she's asking, what foods encourage milk supply?
Mm-hmm. So similar to Molifia's answer during pregnancy, we want you to have a healthy diet. There are a couple of herbals that increase milk supply, but you really do not need to eat anything in particular to make enough milk for your baby. So different cultures have got different diets. Some eat more dairy products, some eat very much plant-based foods. And all over the world, we have enough milk for our babies. So what really drives milk production is removing milk often and thoroughly. That is what makes milk. Now, if you are very deprived, just like Molifia said for pregnancy, if you are very deprived of some micronutrients, that could affect your milk supply. You only need about 300 to 500 extra calories. So again, you are not eating for 2 when you're breastfeeding. Okay.
All right, and I'm going to ask those on the Zoom. I know Blessmore posted a question in the comments. If you could ask your question, and after that, we'll move on to Linda to ask her question. And if anyone else has questions, feel free to ask. Or I could ask them for you if you're not comfortable speaking. All right, so Blessmore's question is, how do you deal with the lump that comes after baby burps on your boob during breastfeeding?
Yes, that is a very, very prolific myth here in Zimbabwe, that if your baby burps on your breast, you are going to get either a blocked duct or a mastitis, but that is not correct. So no matter how often your baby burps at the breast, it is not going to harm your breast. It can never be as strong that it actually penetrates the ducts against milk flowing out. So if you have a blocked duct, you need to investigate where that comes from. It is not from the burping that it happens.
Okay. And Linda is saying, I've heard that people with big boobs produce less milk than those with small boobs. Is that possible?
Yes, that is very often the case, and it is really coming from efficiently emptying the breast. If you've got big breasts, you have much bigger challenges to position and to latch your baby. You can imagine that it is much harder for you to look over the breast and see how the baby is latched. You might be struggling with supporting the baby's body and supporting the weight of the breast. So again, it falls back to, if you do not empty the breast well, you make less milk. So it is important to help mums with bigger breasts to position their babies well so that even they can breastfeed hands-free and can concentrate on their babies. And the best trick for a mom with big breasts is to roll up a towel and put it under your breast so that it is supported before you bring your baby close to you. That way you can concentrate on latching, you can concentrate on listening to your baby swallowing without actually fiddling too much with the breast during the process. So try, if you have big breasts, to support underneath with a towel. If they are very large, we can even put a shawl that goes around the neck to support the breast. And then you've got your both hands free to bring the baby in.
Okay, I'm going to ask Rachel. I know she had some challenges. If you could just share with us some of the challenges that you experienced during your breastfeeding journey.
I think it's everything that everyone has said. So the latching. And for me personally, I'd always romanticized nursing that, as soon as the baby comes out, you start feeding and lots of milk comes out and you'll always have a lot of milk on demand. It wasn't the case for me for a while, actually. And I also had severely cracked nipples, like Masha mentioned. So it was a lot going on at the same time. And then obviously emotionally you're sort of in this new phase in your life and you're worried about the baby, you're not getting enough milk, is the baby gaining weight? Actually my baby lost a bit of weight in hospital, so we had to give him formula in the hospital and still try to breastfeed. Eventually I was able to see a lactation consultant. I recommend that to anyone who's struggling, because I really did struggle a lot.
All right, thank you. And Janet Machaka-Iresibanda is asking, is it possible to exclusively, and this is a question to either both Molefia and Katinka, is it possible to exclusively breastfeed while working full time? What are the rules we need to follow?
Can I answer that, and then maybe Katinka can add? Okay, it's absolutely possible to exclusively breastfeed. Working full time. I did it. I was very, like I said earlier, you need to be very committed to wanting to do it, and you need to have a lot of support. What I do know is, I was also, what I think the misconception sometimes is, because you're surrounded by people maybe who've got some knowledge, you don't need help. But I actually found that actually going to or listening to someone who's actually a specialist like Katinka, she actually helped. So she would like, I'm in a group that she is in, that she talks about breastfeeding, where she'll talk about starting to pump very early on, because you're producing quite a lot of milk, especially I think in the the third or fourth week, I was like, yeah, I was like a milk bank. So then you can start to pump a lot of milk, even when the baby is sleeping, you can pump a lot of milk and you can store that milk, okay, for when you actually need to go back to work. So those are things that you can start to do as you prepare yourself to go to work. I think Tinka can add on to what I'm saying.
Yes, very, very right, Malefia. It is possible, but it's one of the hardest things for mums to do. But I'd like to encourage everyone to do it, because this is your investment in lifelong health for your baby. And, you know, if you think about it, if you have your 3 months leave, and by 6 months your baby is starting to eat, and by 9 months your baby is eating quite considerable portions, we are talking about a period of sacrificing between 3 and 6 months in a lifetime. And I think that should be possible. It can be challenging because of pumping techniques. Pumping, like breastfeeding, is a learned skill. It is not as easy as opening a tap. So you need to learn how to pump. You need to learn how to put yourself in that groove. You need to learn your type of pump that you have and how you can support your body to give that milk. Inform yourself about storage. How long can I store my milk? Breast milk is quite hardy. It can be stored for quite long. You can carry a cooler box if your office doesn't have a fridge. It's something that's very doable. And I'd like to remind everybody as well that in Zimbabwe, we have 6 months where we have the right of 2 extra breaks of 30 minutes within the working day to facilitate that pumping. So it should be easy for you to pump 3 times during your work day. You can have an extra 30 minutes in the morning, you can have your lunch break, and an extra 30 minutes in the evening. So I know workplaces differ and challenges differ, but if you think a little bit outside of the box, it is very possible to do. And joining a support group is good, because we can put our minds together and we can collect ideas, and you can find what works best for you.
That's great. And one last question regarding breastfeeding. It's somebody on Facebook just mentioned sometimes you have too much milk. Are there resources maybe for those mothers that definitely cannot breastfeed to be able to get breast milk from other moms who have excess?
Yes, that's a very, very nice point. We currently do not have an official milk bank in Zimbabwe. We had one way back in the 70s and 80s, but with the onset of the HIV pandemic, that sort of stopped. At the moment, me, together with Ministry of Health and the Pediatric Association of Zimbabwe, we are currently putting our heads together to revive milk banking in this country. I know we've got a lot of other issues at the moment, but this is something where we have an interest. And in the middle to long term, we will have a milk bank again in Zimbabwe, in the hospitals, and we will look for donors to support this, because breast milk can be the difference between life and death for a preemie baby. So keep your ears on the ground. There is a Facebook page called Breast Milk Banking Awareness Zimbabwe. Go and like the page. That is where you will get all the news about the breast milk bank. In the meantime, you can use private milk sharing networks. We have Human Milk for Human Babies Zimbabwe. If you have milk to give away, you can post it on there, and then somebody who needs breast milk can then contact you directly, and you can do a private breast milk exchange.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. So we're going to transition from breastfeeding to when the baby starts eating solid. And I know a lot of times when Gogo comes to visit, she tells you that the baby's still hungry, the baby's not eating enough. Maybe Molithia, you can share on that, and then we'll move on to Marsha so she can tell us how she started meal prepping and preparing homemade meals for her 4 kids.
Awesome. Thank you, Shingi. So we, as the Ministry of Health and Childcare, we're saying, and actually internationally, we're saying, please breastfeed your baby exclusively, no water. It's very hot in Zimbabwe these days. And mothers, I know some of them are being told, no, it's too hot, give the baby water. I know Katika didn't talk about this, but the body adjusts. When it's hot, the body tends to give the baby more breast milk that contains water that is going to quench the baby's thirst, okay? And then as the baby continues to drink, they are going to get milk that is going to have a lot of fat to make them full. So we are really encouraging mothers to exclusively breastfeed up to 6 months. They don't need extra water. So when they get to 6 months, what's going to happen? Okay, so I know a lot of times grandmothers, aunts start to say, oh no, I think we need to make porridge. Okay, we want to make porridge, and we want to make porridge that is the consistency of the water, that of the milk, sorry, that the baby was taking in. And we're saying no to that. We want you to make, if you're going to make porridge, or if you're going to give the baby potatoes, if you're going to give the baby butternut, the baby's food or the porridge should be thick enough to sit in the spoon. It shouldn't just immediately fall off the spoon. It should be thick enough to sit in the spoon. Why are we saying that? Because we want to make sure that the food we are giving this child is highly nutritious. And at 6 months, you're not giving a whole cup so that the baby is so full, they fall asleep and they forget to breastfeed. Because we find a lot of mothers do that. We're saying here, we're introducing solids. So we're saying you're going to give more breast milk. And then in the morning, you just introduce a teaspoon or 2 of whatever food you have thought to give this baby. So for example, maybe you want to give your baby porridge. You can cook your mealie meal porridge. I'm talking in the context of Zimbabwe. You can cook your mealie meal porridge. If you want, you can add a bit of margarine. If you want, you can add some peanut butter. But I would really implore mothers to monitor in terms of peanut butter to check if the baby reacts to it, because a lot of babies these days tend to react to peanut butter when they're given it. So you just want to make sure that the baby is not reacting to the peanut butter. And then you give the baby a teaspoon or 2 to introduce the baby to this food. And I want you to introduce this food, one food at a time. Okay, so for a week you can introduce your peanut butter porridge. Okay, so you're giving or your porridge with just cooking oil, or your porridge with just milk, cooked with milk, or your porridge with margarine. So you're giving that, you're giving it in the morning, you're giving it in the afternoon, 2 teaspoons, and you're giving it in the evening 3 times a day. But the bulk of the food that they're taking in is still breast milk. Okay, so in the first month, or in the month they turn 6 months, you're just introducing food, one food at a time. So once you see that, oh, okay, fine, my baby's not reacting to this food, then you can move on to the next food. Okay, so you're introducing, you're not filling the baby's tummy up so that they're no longer interested in breast milk. We are saying continue to breastfeed, because during that month or during those months, breast milk is still providing the bulk of the baby's nutrition. Okay, so as we move on to 7 months, 8 months, now we are increasing the frequency of the food the amount of the food they're taking in. So from teaspoons, now we're moving on to half a cup. Here I'm talking about the 250 ml cup. So whatever you're giving the baby has to be about up to a half a cup. Okay, so you're giving your breakfast, your lunch, and your supper. And we're now introducing what we're calling the 4-star diet. What we're saying here about 4-star is the food has to contain these 4 very important foods for us to say, yes, the baby has taken in enough of the nutrients that we want them to take in. Okay, so we're saying that the food has to contain a starch, the food has to contain a fruit or a vegetable. That's another star. So a star for a starch, a star for a fruit or vegetable, a star for a meat or milk product, and then a star for a legume. So I'm going to give an example. Okay, so let's say you're going to make your porridge. So you're going to use millie meal porridge. Okay, millie meal porridge is millie meal is a star because that's the starch. And then you're going to want to add, for example, your legume. That's another star, which is your either you can crush cooked beans and put it in the porridge. I know mothers are like, oh, it's disgusting, but babies don't know. It's like they're clean slate. So they don't know. They think they would probably just eat it up so fast because they don't know. So it's new. And please, let's not add sugar or salt, okay? Because they don't know. So don't add sugar, don't add salt to their diet. Okay, so you're putting in your legume, that's the other star, and then you can put in milk to add to the other star. Okay, and then you can possibly cut up a small banana to mix in the porridge, and then they can eat all that. So that is a very nutritious meal, and we know that those are the 4 stars that the baby needs for us to be satisfied that the baby is getting enough of the nutrients. So you can do that for month 7, 8, 9. And then as they're getting to about 9 months, we are expecting them to eat a cup full of food, okay, cup full of food. And we're expecting them to now to really just get into eating more family foods. You're really trying to introduce these foods and eating together as a family to encourage the child to eat with the family. And so as you eat as a family, they are also encouraged. And you need to show that you are enjoying your food so that the baby, this is like they're learning. I actually often laugh at my daughter because if I'm doing something, if I'm combing my weave at night, she'll be watching me. So the other day I saw her walk and get a brush and go to the mirror and start combing her hair as well. And I was like, where did you see that? But you see, she's already imitating what I'm doing, you see. So it's the same thing with food. So we want you to make sure that you are providing that nutrition. You're also taking in the nutrition that you want your child to take in. So if you want to supply your fruits and your vegetables, you want them to eat fruits and vegetables. So cut those apples up, cut that strawberry up, cut those pears up and eat, okay, make a platter of that. So the child is going to eat the stuff that you are introducing or you are eating as a family. So we want you to do that. Introduce those new foods. Don't restrict the child's diet, and we don't want you to force feed the child. Do not force feed the child. You want to make sure that they're eating according to their hunger. Don't force feed the child. Make sure they eat when they're hungry, and clap when the child does well done, and make it an exciting time for the family. And so that the next time they do it, they know that, no, this is something that I'm supposed to do. There's a reward in terms of I get a clap or people are going to cheer when I eat. Okay, so I think basically that's what we want you to do, and continue to breastfeed until I think maybe Katinka can talk about this when you are now thinking about weaning. But as the Ministry of Health and Childcare, we're saying up to 2 years to breastfeed, continue breastfeeding up to 2 years and beyond if you're comfortable, okay, and beyond. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Malithia. And I'm just going to tease those new parents. You talked about the 4 stars. I know usually first meal is sadza with soup. Guys, that's only 1 star. So you need to add more stuff.
Yes, and sadza with soup is not a complete diet. Children from 6 months can have meat. So you can buy your minced meat. You can shred your chicken livers. You can shred your chicken breast, and you can mix it up in the sadza. And you can mix the carrots up in the sadza. And I know when you're looking at it, it doesn't look very palatable, but the baby doesn't know that. They think, oh my God, this is the best thing. the best thing besides breast milk. So mash that stuff up. They're going to enjoy it. They're going to enjoy it, and you're introducing new flavors to their food. Try not to put a lot of spices in your food. You want them to taste the authentic flavors, so that they also learn to appreciate flavors without salt, sugar, or any spices.
Wow. Thank you so much. So I'm going to move on to Marcia, and this is such an engaging conversation. I don't even have enough time to stop and give some prizes, but I will shortly. We have a few prizes to give away. And I'll share Molifia's information. Besides her work with the Minister of Health and Child Welfare, she's also a consultant. She has her own practice as a dietitian, so I'll share that information with you shortly. Marcia, now you've breastfed your kids. Molifia is talking about the nutrition and what you're feeding. Share with us some of what you've done to prepare for meal prep. And I'm going to share your page as you're speaking, just so people can see some of the things that you do for your family.
Okay, dog. Yeah, so I am a firm believer in yummy food. Like Malithia was saying, that children don't know any other way. It's what we introduce to them that they end up knowing. And there's this thing about setting a good example for children, because with children, it's monkey see, monkey do. If they see us eating healthy, if they see us exercising, if they see us being kind, being loving, they will end up doing the exact same thing. And just to add on to what Malifia said, it is very important that we give enough relaxed eating time for ourselves, for our babies, even starting with breastfeeding, going on to solid foods and everything else that involves meal time. And I also want to encourage parents to not use food as a reward or as a sign of love. Food is not a reward. Food is something that a baby needs to grow, to be healthy, to be strong, and everything else in between. The number one thing that I want to let other parents know is that you can make your own baby food. You can, with a blender, if you can get yourself a hand blender even, it doesn't need to be fancy. If you don't have a blender, there is a very useful tool that even our grandparents, our great-grandparents used called pestle and mortar. Now they are making these really tiny and small one-hand pestle and mortar that can be used too. By that I mean kasmo kaduri neka mutski kachona, if in case some people don't know what I'm talking about. So you don't necessarily need a blender. If you don't have one, or if you cannot afford one, that's fine. You can still crush baby's food. And it is very common for us in our Zimbabwean way of life to introduce porridge, meal porridge to babies. But I want to say, as Molifia was saying, that there's not much nutrition in it. And especially for the reason we are giving food, solid food, other than on top of breast milk, at around 6 months going forth, is because we are saying baby needs more nutrition. So in meal porridge alone, there is not enough in there. So we can introduce other things that we can easily find in Zimbabwe, and depending on season, things like pumpkins that can be made into baby food, things like apples, fruits, different kind of fruits, vegetables. Our very own vegetable from the garden, the greens, we can cook that and blend it. Just add a little bit of water and make it into a nice consistency to feed your baby. That is full of nutrients. And then we go on to introduce other things. As our dietitian said, we can give babies any type of food. We can grind up cooked chicken. We can grind up cooked lentils, beans, all sorts of meals that we have. And we can make it nice and tasty and give it to our babies. It is very important to expose kids to a variety of foods because this enriches their palate and they are more likely to eat more food. I know they say, you know, the more exposed you are, the more you know and the more you accept. So it's the same as food. The more we expose our kids to, the more variety we give them, the less likely they are to be picky eaters, and they will be willing to try different types of foods regardless of where we go when we visit Anagogo Kumusha. You know, you don't want to have a fussy baby and be stuck and stressed with nothing to feed the child because you're not in your comfort zone. So here are my tips, and that I have found that very helpful. We live a very busy life, and unlike some of you who are privileged in Zimbabwe, I don't have a maid. I don't have help. It's just me, my children, and if the husband is away at work, then I am on my own. And what has made meal prepping easy and less challenging for me was, first of all, understanding nutritional value of foods. I remember growing up, there were a lot of foods that would shine and say, oh, I don't want okra. Oh, I don't want pumpkin leaves. Oh, I don't want this. But that's because I did not understand the nutritional values of those things. Now I know the nutritional values and the health benefits, and that some of these foods like okra, pumpkin leaves, sorghum, meal, and other super grains that we have in Zimbabwe are actually superfoods that are very beneficial to a healthy body, a healthy immune system. So understand, I think every parent, regard whether a mother or a father who is caring and preparing meals for their children, should understand nutritional values of foods. That would help you in choosing what is right for your family. And we have to look at food as medicine, because if we eat right, our bodies are stronger, are healthier, and we are at our peak performance. If you feed your brain good food, you will perform better, be it at work, be it at school, be it at home, in whatever area of life. So if we look at food as medicine, then we will make sure that we are taking in the right medicine. We are also feeding our children the right medicine. I like to incorporate things like garlic and other herbs in my cooking, because they all have a whole lot of health benefits, and they also bring so much flavor to food. Like, say, for example, you take a simple salad and then you sprinkle mint leaves over it, or parsley or thyme, and then you put your dressing. It will take your meal, your salad, from a plain salad to something different, a tastier version of that same thing that you probably have had a few times. The next important thing is planning. Planning, and I can never overemphasize on that. If you don't plan, you will scramble and you find yourself being wasteful. You'll find yourself being stressed. But if you plan your meals, get your family involved. They say, and I have lived this, and I can testify with all my 4 children, from the age that they are able to speak or to make decisions or even to point before they can actually speak, they are involved in meal planning. When kids are involved in meal planning and grocery shopping, or just identifying the foods, they are more likely to enjoy food. They are more likely to eat more of the healthy things that you put on them. If you get them involved in choosing sweets and, you know, fruit juices, cork and pop and all that, that's what they will be interested in. So let's get our children and the whole family involved in meal planning and grocery shopping. And one of the ways I find that saves me money, being, with a big family, is buying our stuff in bulk. the things that you can buy in bulk. The beautiful thing about Zimbabwe is you can go directly to a farmer or a gardener, or you can go to marketplaces. Like if you're in Harare, you can go to Mbari Musika and buy things that last longer, like your butternuts, like your sweet potatoes, or even some vegetables that you can throw in the freezer. You bring home, you blanch them, and you can freeze those. You will always have something in the house to make something healthy, then that you can plan your meals on. And you also need to invest in good quality storage, food storage containers, lunch boxes, and freezer bags if you can get those. Because how I save time is I do double recipes. You cook once and you eat twice, or you cook once and you eat 3 times. So let's say on Sunday I cook a pot of stew. I am guaranteed that there's enough to eat on Monday, and probably enough to take for lunch on Tuesday. What this does is, we know, for example, Monday is a busy day. Everybody dreads Monday after the weekend, and you just want to save yourself time. So it would take you the exact same amount of time to cook a meal that feeds 8 people and a meal that feeds 4 people. So why not just do double duty and do it once? Another tip also that I find very helpful when it comes to things like beans. I don't like canned beans for reasons best known to me. They don't taste good for me. So I usually just take a big, say 2 kg, 5 kg packet of dried beans, soak that up, and then rinse it and package it and throw it in the freezer. Or cook it first, boil it with nothing added to it, and throw in the freezer in different portion sizes. So that when if I think like 30 minutes before supper time or lunchtime that, oh, I can cook beans, it's just a matter of taking those beans out, quickly make a sauce and throw the beans in. It's directly from the freezer, straight into the pot, and they'll cook in less than an hour. So things like that save you time. Even things like muffins and things like banana bread. Why cook just one recipe? Double it up or triple it. For my children to take to school, I can double or triple a recipe. Instead of making 12, I can make 24. Instead of making 1 loaf, I can make 4 loaves. Slice them up or package the muffins in individual packages. Come the night before school, because I already have a meal plan for the week, I just pull out muffins from the freezer, leave them on the countertop, or put them in the fridge on the cooler part of the fridge, so that in the morning they are ready to just grab and go. I have saved myself time, and I'm feeding my children healthy and delicious meals. Another thing that you can do if you have time, say some people have time over the weekends, cook in advance. Make 4 or 5 meals for the week. Things like stews, you can cook different types of stews. You can cook, I'm referring to both meat and vegetarian or vegan foods. You can cook, like, for example, let's say if you make a pot of beef stew, then portion it into whatever portions are enough for your family and put them in these nice storage bags we talked about. The next day, you can take that stew and add potatoes and vegetables into it. It's different from when you had it with, say, sadza and greens the first day. On the 3rd day, you can take that stew and serve it with rice. On the 4th day, it's the exact same stew. You can serve it with steamed bread, or just have it with other things like chapati or a pumpkin mash or something like that. So it will save you time in cooking ahead if you work like morning to evening and you're coming home scrambling and you don't have help. Also, 1-pot meals, those are perfect and I love them. You can have either in the oven, what they call sheet meals. You just take your baking tray, throw in your stuff on there. your chicken, your butternut, your carrots, your potatoes, this and that into the oven, sorry. It's cooking whilst you're catching up with your kids who spend the whole day at school and you spend the whole day at work or whatever the case may be. Or slow cookers. It's amazing how many people have slow cookers but never use them. That is a God-given that is a God-given gift. One, it doesn't use that much electricity. Secondly, you are never going to burn anything in the slow cooker. Thirdly, you will just click on the button, forget about it, and go about your business and do other things. So use your slow cooker if you have one. And then this magical cooker that is so common these days, a pressure cooker. If you can invest in something like that, you can have your meals ready in no time, in under 30 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes with some of the meals. So next time when you ladies are doing your rounds or whatever the case, enough buying plates and cups. Invest in baking trays, invest in casserole dishes, invest in a slow cooker, pressure cooker, what you name it. And when it comes to meal plans, recycle your meal plans. You don't have to crack your head week after week thinking, oh, what do I cook? Oh, what do I cook? If you make 2-3 meal plans, you're good to go. Recycle them. Use this one, week 1, week 2, week 3. Then week 4, go back to week 1 meal plan. And just recycle and rotate those. You do it the week in 1 month, and then you have the whole year to recycle the same things. And if you have more time, then you get on to make other meal plans. And also, if you keep a list of family favorite recipes, when it comes to children or even husbands sometimes, they can be picky, right? Or there is that one recipe or those 2 recipes that they absolutely love. Keep a list of your family favorite recipes and go to those, and because everybody's going to eat it, everybody's going to enjoy it, and so there's no wastage. So when you plan your meals, when you go to buy groceries, you're buying ingredients that you are going to use throughout the week. Because I know there are a lot of people who have gone to buy ingredients. They have liked a recipe, they try it once, and then they have left over of recipes. They don't know how else to use that same ingredient, and you end up throwing away money. And I think it's very unfair to throw away money. Another thing we can do, and what I do here, we have a very short farming season. And in the 3 months that we get, I grow my own vegetables. You don't need a lot of space. You can even grow it in containers if you live in a flat. You can have something on the balcony, grow some herbs, if anything. Grow some, I've seen people growing greens in containers, and I'm like, how genius is that? Because your own grown food is tasty, it's healthier, and your kids get to see it growing, and they also enjoy doing that. My kids run into the garden, can we pull the beetroot? Can we pull the carrots? Can we have some tomatoes? And to them, it encourages them to eat healthy when they see food growing and looking after it and stuff like that. So grow your own food. That will save you money as well. In the 3 months we had here for growing food, I have enough tomatoes in my freezer to use for the next 3-4 months. I have enough potatoes to use for the next 3-4 months, onions, vegetables, greens, vegetables. I just chop those up and put in the freezer. So there are a lot of ways you can save yourself and your family money and time, and yet still at the same time being able to enjoy healthy and delicious meals without breaking the bank.
Wow, that was amazing. That was really, really good. And you really brought the whole presentation together, from Katinka to Rachel to Molifia. We have a lot of questions. It's time for a prize. I'm going to share my screen to show you what you're going to win. And this, I'll tell you who the winner is, because I've been reading the comments, and I appreciate Katinka and Molifia, you chiming in on Facebook. I was getting overwhelmed with some of the questions on Facebook, so I'm happy that you're handling that. I'll try to read those. our program's supposed to end in 7 minutes. But I would hate for us to leave people with unanswered questions. If you have to go, that's okay. And if Katinka and Molifia are willing to stay on to answer a few more questions, that would be great. Thank you. It looks like we still have a lot more questions, so it would just be a disservice if I'm to cut it off because of time. So let me, our first prize winner, Melody. So Melody is saying, great presentation, Marcia. A variety of food introduced to the baby makes the baby less picky and more willing to try new foods in the future. Let your food be your medicine. That was one reason why you're the winner, because your health is wealth, and you nourish yourself by eating healthy, and so that you don't have to take all this medicine in the future. So I really liked that. And she's saying, my sister's twins love avocado and sweet potato mash. Can they win a prize today? Of course they can. They can get a prize from TUDiki. I'm going to share. We actually have a perfect prize for your sister's twins. And if you go on our website, www.tudiki.com,
wow.
win a steam and mash from us, so that you can mash that avocado and you can mash those potatoes. You can steam them at the same time. So it comes in 4 different colors. So you can inbox me after this. You can send me an email, sales@tudiki.com, or you can send me a message on our Instagram or Facebook pages. So this is our prize for you, Melody. So you can steam and mash from TUDiki. And for those who are new, we have a website. You can order online, www.tudiki.com. We will deliver to you. So we have our website organized in different categories. So under the feeding and nursing, I'll just show you, this is now a commercial break. I'll just show you a few of the items that we have under feeding and nursing. So for breastfeeding, we have breast pads, we have the disposable, we have the washable. We have a lot of the items that you'll need for your breastfeeding journey. And if you're traveling, these are really awesome. Your milk storage bags, once you've pumped, you can store your milk in these and actually freeze them. They save space, so you don't have to have milk in bottles. You can have them in these breast milk storage bags. And we have a lot more other things that are not on the website, but are at the shop. We have 2 locations. We're at Westgate, and we're also at Village Walk. And one of my favorite ones, which I'm gonna give away again, I love these soft tip hot safe spoons. What they do is they change color when the food is too hot, so that you're not, blowing and trying to figure out the right temperature. So if the food is too hot, it will tell you that, hey, hold on, let the food cool. So it's like a spoony. So that I'll see who our prize winner for that is. And while I'm sharing my screen, I just wanted to bring your attention to Katinka's website, katinkabreastfeeding.com. And she has a lot of resources for those in Zimbabwe, a lot of information outside of breastfeeding. And I know she didn't say this, but she also offers her, she does the lactation consultants, and she has the healing laser treatments for those who are asking a lot about the wounds and anything that happens with your breast. So you can really consult with her and get more information. And during COVID, she has the telehealth video consultations. She can certainly meet with you and just help you through your breastfeeding journey. And Molifia, I'm gonna share her information. I had emailed it to myself. But for Molifia, in order to get in touch with her, Molifia, can you just give them your information while before I pull up your card on here? Your phone. Okay, I actually have it. Never mind. So Molifia, her website is www.rdinc.co.w, and it's Registered Dietitians Incorporated. She's at 45 5th Avenue in Harare. I'm going to try to pull up her information later on. Our second prize winner, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Our second prize winner is going to go to Nyasha Kuona. This is her question, and I'm going to ask the question for her. She says, my babies are sensitive to gluten, and I've been trying to avoid food with gluten as much as I can. I have two questions. How do I ensure balance between food for those with sensitivities and those without? And number two, so our food experts, get ready to answer this. Number two is, how sure am I that foodstuffs like Millie Meal are really gluten-free? I've heard some millers use the same machine, the same machine to mill maize and wheat. Oh my goodness, that is just sad and scary. So your prize, I'm going to, Marsha gave us a generous prize. She's a meal preparation consultant. So Nyasha, you have a session with our expert Marsha. She's going to give you a one-on-one session via WhatsApp on some of the questions, to answer some of the questions that you asked. So you guys can get in touch. And Marsha, you can send us an email just so we can connect you to Marsha for her contact information, but you can go onto her Facebook page just so you can get that free consult with her. But those two questions, how does she ensure, anyone can answer this, anyone really watching and listening can answer if you have an answer to this. How do I ensure balance between food for those with sensitivities or allergies and those without? That's number one. And number two, how sure am I that foodstuffs like Millie Meal are really gluten-free? I don't know if anyone has. Okay.
Okay.
I'll
I'll answer the second question.
Okay.
Maybe I'll answer the second question for her and say, unfortunately, in the labeling laws in our countries, especially in African countries, I'm not so sure about, but I know that in Zimbabwe, the labeling laws are not very good in terms of then stating like what she said. But if you see that, if you look at other international packaging, you see that they'll say, maybe if you're looking at chocolates, they'll say made in a factory, where nuts are processed or something like that, to work very hard, as the government of Zimbabwe is really working hard to make sure that those labeling laws are really, what you see is what you get in terms of packaging, in terms of labeling. I think they're really putting strict measures in trying to do that. But I really implore you to read. It's unfortunate that mothers with kids with such conditions have to kind of go to school in terms of those conditions to actually understand what's going on with the children. And I know in African countries, we're not very good at labeling or having products that are gluten-free or having products that are safe for those children. So it's more of a, you have to learn, you have to read, and you have to consult. I'm glad that you gave her a prize of her actually having to consult with someone who can help her out. You have to consult a dietitian, you have to consult your doctors to say, help me out, what can I do to make sure that my child doesn't take in the food that might become a problem for that child. So I think the best advice I can give you is to read your labels, but at the same time, you also need to school yourself, consult people who are in the field to know what it is that you're supposed to do, because sometimes the labels might mislead you, especially here in Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Malafia. I'll go to Melody. She had an answer, I think, for one of the questions.
Okay. I don't know which one I'm answering, but the answer I was thinking about is that a lot of people don't actually know that a lot of the grains, if not all of the grains, actually have a certain level of gluten. All of our grains. It depends on how much gluten each grain has. Sometimes you have sticky rice. Sometimes you have that one that's separated. So you know that stickiness, that's the one that actually tells you that the amount of gluten in there is high. So basically, most, if not all, products actually have gluten. So unless they're processed, and you actually have to go specifically to those shops which process those foods not to have the gluten, chances are most grains have gluten. Now, with diet, when you see your child being allergic to something, you really have to keep investigating, because a lot of the times why somebody gets allergic to something is because of another thing that has been introduced into the diet, which probably causes the child to have an allergic reaction to something else. So you don't actually know that the one thing that's in the diet is provoking other things, which if that one thing was not there, then the grains would be good enough to eat with the gluten. So I have my child who is strictly not on a certain food because I've discovered that, oh, it's this particular thing that causes him to have allergies on this and this and this and this. Like, you always have to read, like you said, you really have to, this is Bolivia, you really have to go around and ask around about all these things. But you will notice that one food can cause you to have an allergy on another food. So you really have to be like calculative about what you introduce. Okay, this is what I gave my child today. How do they react? So that's my answer.
Thank you. And I'm going to I'm going to ask a question from Shandi Muyambo on Facebook. I'm going to answer a few questions so you can think about them and decide who's going to answer. Shandi is asking, Millie Mill porridge was mentioned. Can I give my baby the other grains, e.g. zio, munga, etc.? I also get bored preparing the same thing all the time. I'll maybe give that to Marcia if that's okay. And then the next question was from Melody Netumbwe Onubola. Sorry if I butchered your name. At what point do we start adding salt and sugar? Those are the two questions so far.
Okay, I'll answer. Oh, okay, maybe Marcia can start.
So yes, you can give babies other grains. You can even do rice cereal, like rice flour, and make porridge with that. You can do sorghum and the like. You can also do oats. That's another thing too that you can give to the baby. But porridge doesn't necessarily have to be the only thing you can start with. People mentioned avocados, fruits that are in season. Those will not be expensive because you can either get them from your own tree or buy them for a very cheap price somewhere else, or get from neighbors or the grandparents' house and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely you can give other grains and kids will be fine. And while I'm on that, I saw another question asking about how to freeze, how long and it will take, how long muffins can keep in the freezer, just before we go to Molivia. Muffins can freeze up to 3 months if they are in an airtight container or airtime freezer bag. However, they never last that long in our house because we're a big family of 4. So considering that ZESA is an issue in Zimbabwe, electricity, you can just make for the week and keep them in the fridge. They will last for the whole week. Sometimes they seem like they are going stale. You just wrap them in foil and throw them in the oven for like 10 minutes or even less, 5 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. Or those with microwaves. I don't particularly like microwaves myself, but if you have a microwave, just 10-15 seconds, you can have your muffins feeling fresh.
Thank you, Marcia. And Molifia on the other question.
Thank you so much. Marcia, can I have a free consult as well? Because the way you talk about food, oh my God, I thought I could talk about food, but you can talk about food. I actually get hungry hearing you talk about muffins and everything. But anyway, in terms of sugar and salt, you don't ever need to introduce it. It's not a necessity for the child. It's just something that we grew up being given. It's not a necessity. They don't need sugar and salt. Okay. And right. Thank you for.
Oh, Molifia is frozen.
Hello.
Okay, you froze for a little bit. You said thank you for asking.
Oh, I froze. Okay, I wanted to say, please do not give your children juice. Do not give your children diluted drinks. It's not necessary. They just need water. They just need water. They don't need all that sweet stuff. It's us who teach them to eat sweet things. So if they're not taught, they'll never know. Okay, so don't add sugar, don't add salt. They don't need it. It's not a
Wow.
necessity in their
See,
diet.
the sugar and salt thing actually scares me because I remember there's a huge age gap between myself and my little brother. And he used to get Cerelac, and I used to always want to feed the baby because, you know, 1 spoon for me, 1 for you, 1 for me, 1 for you. And when I grew up and started working, I'm like, I need to buy myself Cerelac. I was actually so shocked at how sweet it is.
It is.
It is so sweet. So it's actually, it's mind-boggling. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on boxed baby foods, you know, your purities. I know I don't want to, you know, cause any issues for anyone and throw them out of business. But I know, Marsha, you prepare a lot of your meals. Any comments or any experience on, you know, feeding your baby yogurt? I know yogurt is very popular and it's also very sweet. And Cerelac is one of those. Any thoughts or any comments from anyone listening?
Yeah, you are so right. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to make Cerelac a baby food. It is some of things like Cervita and other cereals. Again, like I said, starting off with grains, those things are loaded with sugar, just carbohydrates. There's really not much in there. And if there is, then it's things that are added on to something that is no longer in its natural food state. So go ahead, cook your own food, give your babies, your children, the food that you make. Ladies and gents, it's cheaper to make your own food. If you are cooking potatoes that day, you're cooking for the whole family. Just scoop a little bit, put in a blender, add a little bit of hot water to work on the consistency and feed that to your baby. When it comes to sugar, we have a lot of natural foods that have sugar in them. Molifia talked about fruit. Feed your babies when it comes time for them to eat yogurt, give them plain yogurt, not the flavored yogurt. Take your plain yogurt, add applesauce in there that you would have made yourself. It's very simple to make things like applesauce. Just cook up apples, grind them, or blend them, and then add some to the plain yogurt. It is the most delicious yogurt that even I have ever eaten. Things like bananas, you can puree bananas, other fruits that we have in Zimbabwe, mangoes, mulberries, you can puree those or even strain them to remove them. We know the seeds can be an issue, even in adults, but you can strain them using a sieve, or I don't know if you can find a cheesecloth in some stores in Zimbabwe, and then, or the towels, kitchen towels, just put in there, squeeze it out and get only the juice coming out and mix that with your yogurt. You can children can learn to eat sweet stuff, but in the natural state. Fruits and vegetables are loaded with natural sugars, which are easy for the body to digest. Another thing that I add to baby food instead of salt is just a drop of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Not a lot, just a drop makes a big difference and gives, when you want to introduce more flavors and enrich their flavor profile.
All right. I know we've gone over, but this was so interesting. Like I said, we have so many resources available for you in Zimbabwe. Katinka, you can visit her website like I shared earlier. Marsha, it looks like you're going to have a lot more new clients because you're so knowledgeable on time-saving techniques, food preparation, and just anything around meal preparation and nutritious meals for your family. And one of the key things that came from yesterday's meeting was burnout in parents. A lot of moms are just so exhausted and they feel like the whole load is on their shoulders. And I have different groups for the different segments this week. I shared in the fathers group that you're on fire. The mothers are complaining that you get, I just there. and they were firing back. So we'll hear what they have to say on Friday. But tomorrow we have Meet the Doctors. You can get more information on our doctors. And let me just share my screen again so you can see what our lineup for tomorrow is. So our doctors tomorrow, we have Dr. Zanile Danika, Dr. Anisutongwana, Dr. Paweni, and Janet. She's a mom and she has her blog, Mwanangu Mtanani, and she's been an excellent resource for me in just referring me to a lot of resources in and around Zimbabwe. But this has been amazing, and you know, tune in again this week. I don't know if we have a few last question. Okay, I am going to allow just for like 1 or 2 questions, and you can always, what you can do, keep inboxing us these questions or go directly to Katinka, to Molithia. I'll share these resources on our website. So if you go on our website, I will share the screen again so you can see our TUDiki website. It has a lot of the contact information for, oops, so many things, sorry. This is our website. So a lot of the speakers, we have their contact information. So even if you are not able to ask a question, Molithia, I'll add your contact information on here. Janet's information is at the bottom. So a lot of our speakers, we're going to add the contact information so you don't feel like you've missed out. You can still get in touch, because that's the whole purpose of this event, to educate you, to empower you. And I'm glad, one of my favorite parts about this event is we dispel some of these myths in our Shona and Ndebele culture. I know Katinka said it's a myth that your breast is not going to get a lump if the baby burps on it. So a lot of us tend to share and pass on the wrong types of information. So that's the whole purpose of this event. And to just make you enjoy your motherhood and your parenting journey and your fatherhood journey, because I feel like the fathers, we call it motherhood and we forget the dads, but we have fatherhood. Like I said, it's been so nice having you all on this.
There's one here that I think we should address before we go, just a few minutes.
Sure.
Chifu says, guys, what about working moms who don't have time? Can we share tips that help ease the burden? Otherwise, people will walk away feeling guilty.
Yes, and the moms yesterday talked about that. So we can, it's in yesterday's event. You can watch it on our Facebook. But if anyone wants to share on here, guilt is a real thing when you have to go to work.
It is.
And you're just leaving the baby on their own with the caregiver. That can be very, very stressful. I don't know if we have a mom that can just inspire her and help her, you know, just normalize.
I think yesterday one of the speakers talked about accepting help. The blessing about people in Zimbabwe and other African countries is that they can easily afford house help. So you can take your time over the weekend or in the evening after work and do all your planning when it comes to, I'm assuming this was in relation to meal preps and stuff for your family. You can plan the things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do the cooking. If you have house help, also invest in teaching your house help to cook. It doesn't hurt. It's just like at the different workplaces, our employer takes time to teach us how we should work and what they expect from us. So if you have somebody helping you, you can teach them to cook this and that, and get them to help. If it means that, I remember another thing my mom used to do, I don't know if people still do things like that when we were younger, and her friend could just call her and say, hey, I made some relish, can you get the sadza going? So she would come over, she lived a few houses away or a block away. And so just working together with somebody else and coming up with a plan, you don't have to feel guilty. Already you're doing a lot just by being a mother and trying to work outside the home and still have and are expected to still work in the home. So don't feel guilty. Just do your planning and get the help to do the other things that you can you don't have time to do whilst you're at work.
Thank you. And I'll let Katinka and Molifia give closing remarks.
I also think,
Wrap it up.
sorry, Shingi. All right. I also think the whole issue of us wanting to be super moms or super women is what is really affecting us as women, that we want to be the best wife, the best mother, the best worker. Give yourself a break, okay? So it's okay if you go and buy that frozen pizza and throw it in the oven for just that one night and give yourself a break. So it's allowed, you're not throwing off the whole nutrition thing, really. It's okay, you know, as long as you've just taught your children to make healthy choices. So I think you need to just give yourself a break, okay? And like what Masha is saying, accept the help. Accept the help. And you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised that that 9-year-old son or that 8-year-old son or daughter can make a sandwich and they can be fine. They can go and make their own sandwich. Today, mom, we'll make breakfast. But the thing is, you want to be super mom, you want to make pancakes for breakfast. You want to do all these nice things so that you can, you know, you're a true African woman. No, guys, it's okay. So let your son, let your daughter make those eggs for breakfast or a sandwich, and take time off to just breathe and be you. So that you don't feel that guilt all the time. You're doing so great by doing what you're doing already. So give yourself a break. It's okay to take the day off, the night off, and to ask for help. I think in my closing remarks is it's possible, guys. Eating healthy is possible. Breastfeeding up to 2 years is possible. It just takes dedication. It takes a lot of support. So ask for help. And yeah, you can do this. You're a super mom, you're a super dad. You can do this.
And Bless More, thank you for going live while breastfeeding. Thank you. And Katinka, any closing remarks?
I think we've heard all we needed to hear from all the wise women who are here in the meeting. There is nothing I could say that can top these remarks. I am with you, ladies. You are wise. You have given the advice. Think of yourselves. Don't lose yourselves in being Amainingi. You are also yourself. Go into the sun, stretch, find yourself, look into your baby's eyes, and just be you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Katinka. Thank you, Molifia. Marsha, thank you. Rachel, duty calls for Rachel. She's listening, but she has to take care of baby right now. But thank you all, and continue listening in this week. Tomorrow we have Meet the Doctors. I've introduced the doctors. Wednesday is our wellness, health and beauty session. And Friday, I keep saying this, I'm so excited for Friday because the dads are just trying to reclaim their identity in Zimbabwe. So thank you all. And for more information, go to our website, the www.thetudikishower.com. And you can also shop at tudiki.com or visit us at Village Walk and at Westgate Shopping Center. Thank you and God bless. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Shingi.
Thanks, Shingi.
Bye-bye.